Okay, off to Senator Galvez.
Thank you very much for this very clear and pragmatic and factual description of your position and opinions. I have observed exactly the same thing as you, in the sense that I'm a professor in engineering, and in the last year I observed an increase in the consumption of cannabis and an increase in the drop of the studies. So I know what you are talking about when it makes a major disturbance in the life of a young person. My question is concerning the mix of drugs, alcohol, and cannabis, and the treatment of the addiction. I myself have taken students to the psychiatric emergency, because they had a bad trip and a psychotic event. And doctors were very clear to say that there was an addiction and that there was not clear treatment for treating this addiction. Now, in the schools, this is my final point, is that when you have an addiction, it's considered as a handicap, and you have to have accommodations in the schools. And therefore, this becomes an increase of all the burden in the school system to accommodate for special needs, for evaluation courses, etc. So can you tell me do you think that is going to happen in the future with this?
Who are you directing the question
To Dr. Laurent Marcoux and Dr. Philippe Thibault.
Bien, moi, j'aurais moins de réponses.
I would have less of a scientific response than my psychiatrist colleague who sees these patients regularly. There are harmful effects. Among our 95,000 members, not all of them see such patients, but most of us have, and this is why we're so worried. And I will allow Dr. Thibault talk to you more fully about what happens when you mix marijuana with alcohol, etc. So I give you the floor. Thank you.
Just to, I guess there's a number of different things within your comments and questions. One thing to focus on a little bit with respect to treatment and our current treatments. There are, some treatments that are out there with respect to cannabis cessation and addictions within the areas of motivational interviewing, cognitive behavioral therapy. But to be honest, we don't have a lot of successful treatments at this point in time, partly because, and well, I say mainly because, we haven't had the ability to do the research, right? So this is the unfortunate place where we are now, and with legalization, is that this will be coming up, but yet we still, as psychiatrists within mental health, we don't have the tools yet to really deal with the addictions angle of things. I did a national survey with all our early intervention programs across Canada a couple of years ago and published, and the majority of them, about 80–85%, had more of a passive approach to treating the addictions, because that's all that's available. So definitely with respect to this, this is why I mentioned within our points, is that we have to have some resources to look at how do we treat these illnesses, and how do we treat the addictions. Cannabis alone, but as well as cannabis with other addictions. The alcohol cannabis addiction is not uncommon. You mentioned as a professor in university, the most common substances in university are alcohol and cannabis. Again, we don't have a whole lot of research on that. Obviously, where a lot of the research has come out is with respect to the effects on driving and with respect to fatalities with that particular link.
Yeah. Somebody else wants to respond? Is that okay? Dr. Millen.
Sorry, I hate to kind of disagree with my esteemed colleague, Dr. but we do have actually excellent treatment for addiction. I am an addiction psychiatrist. That's what I do a good part of my other life. And so we have very good treatments. We don't have good pharmacotherapy treatments. So that's different, right? So, there are good, excellent psychosocial treatments. They mirror outcomes for treatment of chronic illnesses like diabetes, high blood pressure. In terms of effectiveness, many studies have been done, Lancet published, the JAMA, New England Journal of Medicine, looking at these, and not just recently, but even before. and obviously the addition of treatment of concurrent disorders. So we have very good treatments. We don't have a lot of treatment available, so that is a difference. You know, treatments are there, we don't have a lot that are available yet. Access.
CNA wants to answer too. It'll have to be very quick, please.
Very brief, and not discounting your experience as a professor. As a professor myself, I do see students with problematic use. However, it's important to recognize that as we watch Colorado and Washington, and we're starting to get data from those jurisdictions, we are not seeing at this time, through population-based surveys, an increase in use in youth and young adults, and in some surveys we're actually seeing a slight reduction in cannabis use, which may reflect the public education campaign that is ongoing in those jurisdictions.